And I'm going to also try to enable transcription, which I'm not sure I can, but I'll try notes. Uh, uh, Nice labeling is setting. Nobody else but the host can see it. Who need to? I'll just do it for me for now. I don't know I don't know how all this works. I'm working it out. Uh, does anyone need captions? I don't think so. Okay. Uh, okay. Guess that's that. And guess that's everything. Okay. So, welcome to the women. Oh, here's Mary Sanderson. Another 2 minutes. Uh, Two more people enter the room. Robin is here. And uh, yeah, Mary Sanderson. Hey, Robin. Welcome. Uh, we're going to start, even, hi, Jean. Even though I'm hoping more people will show up, we're often late. So we're going to start now. The meeting's being recorded. Yes, Robin.
Oh, just one sentence that took me time to get on this because I was looking for the link under your name and under the title of this group and realizing and remembering at the last moment that I should look for it under Zoom. And there it
Oh,
was, but that's why I'm late. Anyway, just explain.
yeah. I sent the email out uh, late last night again to remind people, but I don't think you're on my list. Um, so that only went out to our committee. So I can't reach the whole membership that way. Hopefully they all read the e-alert and will be here. Okay, so welcome to the Women, Money, and Democracy Issue Committee Planning Retreat. For the first hour of this meeting, we're inviting members from all over WILF to suggest economic justice priorities for our committee to work on during 2025 and beyond. And just to recap, the projects that we already do include advocacy for public banking, feminist economic literacy through our partner and economy of our own, addressing, oh, here's Lucille, addressing corporate power as a threat to democracy, monetary reform as a way of reimagining our economy and society without oppressive debt. And we work on that with our ally and Alliance for Just Money. And you can, let me see if I can do this. You can read more about our projects. And I'll put the webpage for our committee in the chat. Here we are. Here we are. So there we go. There are so many economic justice issues that are not already on our committee's to-do list. Not because we don't know about them, but because you can see that we are a limited number group, and we try to do what we can that will have impact. And with a small group, there's a limit to what that looks like. Of course, with everything that's happening in the country today, that is going to exacerbate the economic pain among the most vulnerable people pretty quickly. So we're hoping today that some of the issues that we're not already working on, which our WILF members feel are critical, could be suggested, and then later on we can prioritize which ones we have the woman power and energy to work on. We're hoping that members can provide some insight into what our priorities might look like for the next 2 years. So let's begin by quickly introducing ourselves, our names, branches, and locations. I'll start and then I'll call on everybody else. If I don't call on you, it's inadvertent, and please let me know I left you out. I'm Mary Beth Gardam, the chair of the Women, Money, and Democracy Issue Committee. I'm located in Iowa City, Iowa, and I loosely belong to the Des Moines, Iowa branch, but I also participate in our Jane Addams branch for at-large members who are not affiliated with a branch. I'd like to take this opportunity to say that I've been chair of this issue committee for a very long time. And for years, I've been asking others to come forward and take on the leadership or co-leadership of the committee. I'm making that ask again today. If you have a sincere interest in economic justice issues and are willing to devote time to leading the efforts of this committee, please email me and I'll put my email in the chat. It's a request I try to make at least once a year. And so far, nobody takes me up on it, but I keep hoping. Not because I don't want to do the work. This is the committee where my heart is, but because it would be nice if we had a change of leadership from time to time. I am not trying to hold on to power here, just so you know. Okay, so from left to right on my screen, I'll start with Stacy. Can you tell us your name, location, and what branch, if any, you're affiliated with?
Yes, I'm Stacy, and I'm in the Boston area, and affiliation is Boston branch. However, unfortunately, I don't get to do activities with them often due to conflicts. Most of my time is spent with Will with this committee. And Mary Beth, can you just remind me any other questions, or did I answer them?
No, I think you got it. So moving along is our guest, Cheryl Spencer. Cheryl, tell us where you're from and what your role is in WILF.
Yes, good morning. I'm sitting in Palo Alto, California, Northern California. I'm a member of the Palo Alto Peninsula branch, and I'm a co-chair of the Disarm End Wars Issue Committee. Thank you.
Yep. Next is Ricky Guard Diamond.
Hi, I'm hailing from Vermont. I'm a member of this committee happily and founded a feminist alliance called An Economy of Our Own. And I have been a WILF member with the Burlington branch, but Robin, I probably missed getting to check to you and need to because I was sick in bed for about a month. And so it was right during the time when all the mailings were going out. So I'm delinquent, but not intentionally, and I'll make good on it.
Okay, thanks. Nancy Price is next.
So I'm Nancy Price in Davis, California. I am co-chair with Jean Hayes of the Fresno branch of Earth Democracy Committee. And I meet up most often, it's virtually, with the Sacramento branch that is now joining the coalition in Sacramento to work on a regional public bank. Thank you.
Hey, public banking in California should be getting a shot in the arm after all these fires. Keeping money local is going to be more and more important.
Yes, well, there's lots going on with public banking in California.
Robin Lloyd, you're next. And you're on mute.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, hi everyone. Robin Lloyd, Burlington, Vermont. Burlington, Vermont, Wilf, and maybe it's all of Vermont, Wilf. Unfortunately, our Montpelier branch is smaller, but there's Ricky, so that's wonderful, and we're all together here. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Next is Jean Hopkins.
Hi, I'm Jean Hopkins, and I'm in Burlington, Vermont, along with Robin Lloyd at the Burlington branch.
Thank you. Mary Sanderson, our Midwest contingent.
Yes, hello. I'm with the Madison, Wisconsin branch of WILP and with the Women Money Democracy Committee, especially.
Thank you, Mary. Jean Haskell, welcome. And can you tell us a little about yourself?
Thank you. I think I'm in the wrong place. I'm in Philadelphia and I'm a member of WILPF, but I'm more active with the Granny Peace Brigade, although we do collaborate in many ways. And Tina Shelton is the head of our chapter of WILPF here. And I just thought this would be an interesting program, so I signed on, but I may
Well,
not.
we're happy to have you, and we're looking forward to your input. So do stay around for a while.
Okay, thank you.
Lucille Eckrich.
Hi, yes, I'm in Central Illinois, Bloomington Normal. There is not yet a WILF chapter in Central Illinois, so I am part of the Chicago chapter, trying to be. Never heard from Rockford, so I could be part of that too. And I'm active with this committee in particular, and have attended the Congress and helped with tech there. Yeah, I've attended some other stuff, but mostly this committee. And I'm then very active in the Alliance for Just Money, which I just put a link to in the chat. And that's a partner with this committee.
Are you near Rockford, Lucille?
It's about the same distance, Rockford to
Chicago.
where I am in Chicago to where I am.
Great. Thank you.
2 hours.
Diane Blay. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. If you don't show your picture, I guess that you get put at the end, which is fine. I was just testing it out. So I'm Diane Blay from Fairfax, Virginia, as I put in the thing, my little block. And I'm in the Jane Addams branch and co-chair of Disarm.
Thank you. We're glad to have the two Disarm co-chairs here. We always look for ways to collaborate with other issue committees. James Allison and Tommy Allison, welcome.
Well, thank you.
These are emeritus members of our committee, which used to be called the Corporations versus Democracy Committee. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting us. We're both lifetime members of WILP, and we've been active for quite a while in the Bloomington, Indiana chapter, but not so much lately. We've shifted most of our activities of that kind to another outfit called Reverse Citizen United, which says it all, I guess, what we're up to there.
Our branch has really aged out with people going with other interests that are still members of WILF. So their membership is still here, but we're not meeting regularly.
Okay. All right, well, thanks for all of
We
that.
are still on corporations versus democracy. That is our basic bit through all the different groups that we've been with.
That's what drew us in, and we've remained with that connection.
It all
Jim,
goes back to the money. That's the whole point.
boy, it's true, and we certainly are seeing that these days. Jim is the author of several plays about the way that our constitutional rights were incrementally sold off to, I'll say, oligarchs from as early as 1850s. And it's a history that Wilf has put a lot of energy into promoting and educating about. I suspect that Wilf is a major reason why the public now understands the term corporate personhood. Mary, you're also you're coming in as a different person now?
Beg your pardon?
You're on mute, but
Thank you,
are there two?
sorry. I had tech
You're
problems.
Oh, okay, so you're switching.
Now I'm
All
going to
right.
put up the celebration sign for what you just said, that Wilf is the reason people know that term.
I believe that it is. We had a corporate study course, which Jim and Tommy were very involved in helping to promote and update. And branches all over the country put this course together and used it to educate. I know in Des Moines alone, over the years, we involved about 400 people in learning about what corporate personhood is, the history of it, and how we might work together to undo it. But boy, it's been tough. I want to welcome Tana Hartman. Tana, thank you for joining us. And I wanted everyone to say their names and where they are and what branch they're located with, they're part of. So please tell us.
Oh, hi. I'm very sorry I'm late. I'm actually coming from a WILF meeting here in Chapel Hill. So with lots of planning, good turnout. So
Great.
I'm from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and my name is Tana Hartman.
Thanks for joining us. And we also have two new people joining us, Tara Vasefi and YH Pat. So Tara, will you come off mute and tell us where you're located and how you're connected to Wilf? Hello, Tara. Are you there? Okay, well, maybe Tara will unmute later. We welcome you anyway. And YH Pat, can you tell us where you are and how you're connected to Wilf?
Hello, I am happy to be here. Thank you for organizing. I am on Sissepaha land on Turtle Island, which is also known as North Carolina in the United States, and I'm part of the Triangle Wilf chapter.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, well, thank you all for being here. There are no shortage of economic justice issues that plague us today. It looks like things will only get worse in the next few years. What can we do as Wilf Women, Money, and Democracy? Which of the many priorities we'll consider have the most potential for radically changing our economy and society? Some of the ideas that I've been, thinking about for the last couple of years include things like bail reform, equitable housing solutions, national health care, tax-funded day for families, tax-funded daycare for families, protecting libraries, state and national departments of consumer rights, tax reform, trying to stop the transfer of wealth to the oligarchs, participatory budgeting initiatives, further opposing consolidation of media and reinstating the fairness doctrine. These are just some of the things that always come to mind for me. And we've not been able to really explore them very well on this committee. We've been so busy with the projects that I already mentioned. Let's see. Diane did introduce herself, I believe. Yes, didn't you, Diane? Yes.
Yes, but I was wondering where Jim and Tommy live. If they said it, I forgot, or it didn't hit me.
That's okay.
We're in
Jim, you
Bloomington,
want to?
Indiana. Bloomington, Indiana.
Indiana. Oh, thank you. Okay. Just like to picture where you're doing your work.
And Tara, welcome. Are you able to come off mute now and tell us where you're located and how you're connected to Wilf?
Yes, hi all. My name's Tara. I am the local branch contact for the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom that exists on occupied Piscataway and Nacotchtank territories, also referred to as Washington, D.C.
Thank you for joining.
Very
And
good.
we also have Krista Purdue. Welcome, Krista. Can you tell us where you're located and how you're connected to Wilf?
Hi, I'm from Detroit, and we are big into our Peace Gallery, the oldest North American Peace Center in the North America. I said that. It's called the Swords and the Plowshares, which is how I got affiliated with a member of WILF.
Thank you for joining us today. So as I said, what I've invited folks to do this morning is give us ideas, our committee members, about of all of the pressing economic justice issues that surround us and which are no doubt going to get worse. Which ones should our committee prioritize for the next year or two? We'd like to hear from you about which of these issues resonate with you and would call for analysis, awareness building, and action. So I'm going to ask you to raise your hands if you have ideas to suggest, and I'll call on you. If you're on the phone instead of your computer, and it's easier, just say stack, and I'll call on you. Sometimes it's hard for folks on the phone to raise their hands. So these can be just rough ideas, or if you've got, a real fleshed out plan in mind, that would be wonderful. You can direct your suggestions at any particular local or regional issues or national ones. Either way, we're taking notes of the suggestions you make. This section of the call is being recorded just so we have a record of what people suggested. So let's hear your thoughts. Tara, you're first on my screen.
Mary Beth, can I just ask that that great list that you just gave, can you put that in the chat?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Yes, that was
Great.
my suggestion too. It went too fast for me, Mary Beth.
Oh, all right.
You could screen share it too.
Let's see. But go ahead, Tara, while I do that, and tell us what ones you were interested in.
I mean, I think I'm interested in all of them. I need like I kind of want to wait till the end of this session to kind of hear from everyone and see which ones we should prioritize. In particular, the ones that stood out to me was the childcare one. I think you said publicly funded childcare. And I work in childcare in DC, and it's a really, really fascinating, I think, model for what you're describing, because we were one of the first jurisdictions to pass universal childcare. And because we're not a state and our budget is controlled by Congress, the way in which, the people have organized our collective bargaining power around this core issue in our society, I think is a really, really interesting model. The other one that stood out to me was budgeting. We have a really, really great coalition called the Fair Budget Coalition here in DC, that I am actively a part of. And also, I think is a model for, localized approaches to having the people's collective bargaining power represented in the budget process. And then I think you said something about taxes.
Tax reform?
Tax reform, right. So again, through the Fair Budget Coalition, the issue committee that I'm part of is called Fair Taxes and Public Deals. And I could kind of go into what that work entails, but to me, it's really interesting because we have a lot of unique mechanisms within the property law of the US that I think is an avenue for us to, again, take that collective bargaining power and apply it to our public deals or our public lands. Thank you.
Okay, so that was childcare, tax reform, and participatory budgeting, right? Did I get it all? Okay, great. Diane, your hand is up.
Yes, I didn't know I was next though. But anyway, so I think the most important thing regarding money in the US is the fact that we spend too much on the military and not enough on social programs. So it has such huge effects, the wars we support, the coup, everything. So that, to me, that's the most important thing about women, money, and democracy.
Okay. Jean, you're next.
Which Jean?
I'm sorry, Jean Hopkins.
Okay.
I don't think you had your hand up, did you, Jean Haskell?
Yeah.
No, I didn't actually.
Okay, Jean Hopkins.
Okay, yes, I would ditto what Diane just said about too much on the military. We need to get rid of the military industrial complex. Not get rid of it, but just lessen the amount. But also I'm concerned with tax reform, especially back in the 1950s before Reagan came in. We had a much more progressive graduated income tax. And, the wealthy people, in fact, were paying 90%. If you have $1 million, pay 90% to the government and you have 100,000 left. Most of us could live on that. And so I'm thinking now did Obama get it up to like 39% was the top, something like that. And now I think it's back down maybe 27 or something. So I think just that back to that graduated income tax. When I was growing up, I thought we were all equals, but no.
That's what they tell us. Turns out it's a fairy tale. Cheryl, you're next.
Yes, so the Disarm End Wars Committee already has a campaign to reduce the military budget and to influence what we call the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. We do that through some coalitions where our committee is in. People Over the Pentagon is a big organization. So that would be a place where our two committees could cooperate. The thing I was going to mention was, based on what is happening with the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, I think having us all better understand what the Treasury Department does and how it works. I know I pay my due taxes to the Treasury Department, right? I'm retired, so I have to send in my taxes individually. I don't have a W-2. So anyway, I think a better understanding of that department and how our taxes come in and are dispersed, and how the hell can a private person have access to that department's inner workings. I think just currently, depending on what's happening right now with Musk and his 20-something-year-old, the young man from Gunn High School, where my daughter went to high school, just down the road from here. He's one of those people. He's a 22-year-old, goodness knows, he worked for Twitter for a while. He's one of those people who's working with Musk. What does he know? Thank you.
Well, you're our spy.
Aside from the age, there's, the whole question of how unelected people without security clearance get access to this kind of thing. But yeah. All right. Well, these are really these are valuable things to include. And Jean, yes, go ahead.
Yes, I will add on to the military. Our peace group is very opposed to any money for the military, but particularly nuclear.
Yeah.
And nuclear does not get talked about very much. There are all kinds of nuclear weapons, and not only are we supporting a battery of nuclear weapons, but we are upgrading our nuclear weapons as if we're planning for some kind of nuclear war. And that really needs to stop.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And there's been a Facebook meme going around that if Musk was really interested in cutting $3 trillion from the national budget, he could just take that money away from nuclear weapons.
Right.
And I remember when I can't remember his name. There was a famous general who was running for president a few years ago. He came to Des Moines and was glad-handing about. And he made the mistake of interrupting my lunch with a friend to thrust his hand in my face and introduce himself. And I said, well, can you, Wesley, gone, it's gone. I said to him, what's your position on nuclear weapons? Which he was not expecting. And he said to me, well, everyone in the upper levels of the military understands that nuclear weapons are practically impossible to use. And I said, so why are we spending so much to keep them and maintain them and add new ones? And he had no answer except to say, well, if I'm elected, I'll address that for you. So, yeah. Yes, Lucille, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciated, I think it was Cheryl's suggestion, building on Diane's, or responding to Diane, that some of the work on money and war is going on already in the Disarm and Wars Committee, and that we should partner on that. I think, and the last comment, we should bring nuclear weapons especially. And I think just in that cooperation, sort of the role of our money system and private profits making in the military industry, and now the flip side of, Trump trying to, own Gaza and rebuild after all our guns and military have destroyed it. anyhow, I think that collaborative work and that this committee can bring kind of the money piece and the private corporate profit piece into that work more explicitly. So I think that's a great suggestion. And who was it who just suggested now? Maybe it was Cheryl too, or but that wondering, looking into the Treasury and studying, you know, where our tax money goes. So I would expand that a little. I mean, I know my taxes and my organizations, we file with the IRS. So, you know, I think at some level our money is collected by the Internal Revenue Service, but what is the relationship? So looking, maybe this committee could look at how does Treasury and the IRS and the Fed work? How do they interface with each other in relation to our taxes, our money system, public debt, and public spending? Those are 4 pieces. And that triangle, you know, and when you're talking about the Fed, you're talking about, you know, they're just the overseers of a private corporate banking system, but looking at the relationship between Treasury and Fed and the IRS in relation to those 4 elements would be a useful project.
Yes, thank you. That is a good idea. Cheryl.
Yes, just to say, Jean Haskell, that the Disarm End Wars Committee, one of our most vigorous campaigns is against nuclear weapons, and in particular against what they call the Sentinel Project, which aims to upgrade the 400 ICBMs that are sitting in the middle of the country.
Yes.
You there in Wyoming and Montana and what have you are sitting ducks for the enemy, probably Russian ICBMs that will come your way. So if there should be a war, nuclear war. So please, those of you particularly interested in disarmament, I don't want to steal you from this committee, but I'll put our Disarm chair email address in the chat. And so those of you who are particularly worried about nuclear weapons, please consider coming to some of our meetings. We have one tomorrow. We meet twice a month, Sunday at 4:30 if you were in California. And we're having a meeting tomorrow. So yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tara, for putting some really nice links into the chat. And Mary Sanderson, yes, understanding the Treasury and its lock on the federal banking system. Nancy's next.
Hello. So I think that so there's a link in all of these topics, of course, from the national down to the local, to the branch level, let's say. And so it might be worthwhile talking about how could we engage branches, for example, in the daycare issue or the library issue or in participatory budgeting, so that we build that capacity at the local level that can then feed back into what kind of national campaign we and others are going to build capacity for and engage in, so that we then have some kind of coalition work going on. If we really have to change the narrative, because this current narrative of waste and needing efficiency, et cetera, that Musk and Trump are putting forth is something we have to really push back against, because then we can talk about what's really needed for the good of the people, the common good of people and the planet, versus for the the wealthy and destroying the planet. If we look at moving the money from a war to a peace economy, that also impacts Earth democracy because of the supply chains and the need for raw materials, et cetera. that add greenhouse gases to the climate issues. So I think there are these interconnections that if we sort of move from the local to the national and back down, what would we focus on here as a start?
I think that's a really good model. It's certainly how Wilf used to work, looking at it, probably starting with national big issues and then interpreting them in local issues, and then sharing the local work on a national level. I'm impressed with the work that the AHR committee's housing working group has been doing, gathering information about homelessness in the areas where our members live as a way of creating sort of a map of what's happening legislatively and in terms of, really punishing homeless people for being homeless. And also sharing local solutions that they're coming up with. And that could be a model that we use for any of these issues that we're considering working on. Stacy, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so this is maybe more along the lines of what Lucio and Mary were mentioning. I just put it under that topic, education, educating ourselves and educating our representatives that we know how the money system works, and that will give us the confidence to address these reform issues. And by that, I mean, for example, just one example is I continue as I study myself with whether it's with AEOO or AF Lies for Just Money or this group, and my own studies, like listening to a number of different commentators on the economy, is, even though we pay money, for example, as taxpayers, we pay and our tax dollars are used for these any number of programs we may or may not like, that also we are, other countries buy bonds and that supports, for example, our war funding. And so that's another way we're able to leverage even more and more money to do things that we may not otherwise be able to do as a country. So, and I'm not trying to address like the US government as a whole, because it's very complicated. But I guess what I'm trying to say is basically, as we understand more about the money system, we'll be able to thread our understanding through the topics that we are taking on, like housing, for example.
You're muted, Mary Beth.
Nancy, did you have something to say? I'm sorry.
Well, I was just reminded that I read an article earlier this morning on my phone in bed about sovereign wealth funds. Do I have that correct? That Trump and Musk are discussing creating a US sovereign wealth fund that you invest in, and then there are payouts to the investors in it. And I think we might want to learn more about how those funds work. This article said that Norway ran one that was extremely well run and transparent, and there was another word used, versus the one I think that Saudi Arabia has, which is apparently the opposite. So I don't really know very much about these. Maybe we need to learn more and be prepared.
It's one of those ideas that sounds so reasonable. It's kind of like the US bonds that we all bought and our parents gave us as gifts when we were kids. It sounds like investing in America is a great idea, but the fact that these oligarchs are the ones who are putting this together does create a lot of concern about how the details will be handled. So thank you. I had never heard of a sovereign wealth fund. That is scary on its face.
Well, I think, for example, Alaska has one that is funded by the profits from oil. And every year, everyone gets something like $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000. Now, if we've got this oligarch, head of, let's see, which department is he head of now? The one they just appointed. Anyway, you can see with the drill push of Trump and the opening up of all sorts of oil reserves in this country and exploiting even the ones that are now producing oil and gas, that you know what can happen, because they really want to exploit every resource, oil and gas resource in this country on public and private land. So anyway, I was quite frightened when I read this article. I'll see if I can dig it up again and send it.
It's diabolical. It's very much like the way that they've tied all of our pension plans to Wall Street. Self-interest demands that we now support these companies and their success. And of course, that's exactly how the fund in Alaska works, that your future wealth is tied to the fact that we have to keep
pumping,
raping the resources of Alaska. It's very disturbing. I hear that Tommy has her hand up and wants to speak. Go ahead, Tommy.
Yes, I've been listening to the various ideas, and all the issues are important. And one of the things is that with so many issues and so many ideas, what you get is you don't get a unifying theme where you can begin to get a understandable message out and to educate the public. And there's they say over again, to get control, you need to control of the communication, and you need the control of the money. And that's what the whole, if you study the history of the right wing and the of how they got the control that they have, is that it revolves around your ability to communicate with your fellow citizens, and you control the money. And we have what you have said along here. You've talked about the importance of the treasury, in terms of that having the shut-off valve of the money. So what I'm trying to say is, all these ideas are good, necessary, and etc. They are also in all your various local branches and stuff. This is what motivates people to work on a particular issue that they feel strongly about, and whether it's housing, whether it's any number of the things, childcare, whatever it is. That's right. You should start from the motivation of whatever the active members are in that group. But if you want to try to not confuse the public as far as what is it you're about, we need to have a unifying theme that goes overall, that goes right back to the corporations versus democracy, so that we understand how they have taken control of all the levers of power in our democracy, so that part of every program is also a simplified, unifying theme. And then from that, you say, this is how we can tackle one of these issues underneath the fact that they have control the communication and the money. That way, people don't have a fragmented, then it's not just that people are confused, that they don't understand the whole, but they don't then organize into larger and larger political action groups that can actually have enough volume or votes to throw these bums out in terms of the and again, the money again is in the campaign money and communication, etc. So I'm not just saying this to Wilf, I'm then trying to say this to all the different organizations that have the same heartfelt efforts to actually fill the needs or help with the needs of people's daily lives, that if you are fragmented and trying to do it on your own, bit by bit, you wear yourself out and you can't compete with their unified themes. And they got together, even though there are many differences and stuff like that, but they came up with something that resonated, that it can be unifying. So I guess what I'm saying is, the Wilf will continue to get smaller and smaller if we don't have a way to attract and bring in new members. The work that Wilf does is very useful, it's helpful. There's all the basic information is being used by other groups, and there have been successes and etc. But we are in a desperate situation in our country, and unfortunately, we're one of the richest country that can do an exceeding amount of damage with this kind of leadership that we've got now in office.
Yep.
Thank you, Tommy. It is important to have a unifying theme, and we need to keep that in mind as we keep sorting through these ideas.
I'm so sorry, Mary Beth. How do you spell your name, Tommy?
It's T-O-M-I. It's a short for Tomalia.
Got it.
Tommy was the mayor of Bloomington, Indiana during a very turbulent time and racial unrest, and she wrote a book about it.
etc. Yeah.
What?
Right.
During the Vietnam period, yeah, and after.
Yeah. And yeah, she has a book out about it called The Accidental Mayor. And you know, she's one of our preeminent members, really. Ricky, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I want to just say that I'm aware that not only has there been a wonderful conversation going here on screen, but there's another one on chat that I can't keep track of. I can't I can't do both. But it's wonderful to see this kind of engagement and to hear about so many wonderful ideas. And also to agree with Tommy about the importance of a theme. At An Economy of Our Own, we came up with the idea that we wanted to focus on the what we call the full-bodied economy, which is a productive economy that provides real needs, that provides real services that human beings and the planet need, compared against the financial economy, which is money making money from money, which is something that many of you have been talking about, that urge, like the sovereign wealth fund. There's an even scarier one, which is the idea of creating what do they call it? They want to create when I say they, I mean the powers that be around Trump and the bro billionaires, wanting to create a crypto reserve. They want us, the taxpayers, to buy cryptocurrency that we will hold, and the theory is that everyone will get rich because crypto is so valuable, when in fact there's no evidence that that it is, and that it's actually kind of it's the privatization of currency is what it is, and there's no backup for it, which is why our dear leader came out with his own meme coin and one for his wife as well, because our other president, Mr. Musk, has his own Dogecoin, by the way. It's not an accident that the Department of Government Efficiency mimics the name of his cryptocurrency. It's all interconnected. So everything that we're talking about, we really need to be aware of the context that we're talking about it in. It is dramatically changed. It is changing as we speak. Who knows what they're doing on the weekend, late at night? That's when they've been operating. And if any of you have had the chance to look at Project 2025, which I've had the misfortune of doing a bit of myself, writing for Ms. This is a really fanatical, radical context that we're working in, and all the norms that we're used to don't exist anymore. That those things that we thought, like diversity, inclusion, and equity were good things, they're saying they're criminal things. They're naming as illegal things that we thought of as legal, and they're doing illegal things that we now we're told are within the executive power. So the context is totally changed, and we need to, whatever we design, to be very aware of that, and in our messaging or our naming of things. So I guess I want to emphasize the importance, I think, of what we could really call fictitious capital, which a lot of this, you wonder, where did they get all these billions and trillions of dollars? What are they exactly? What is it exactly? I think we need to question that. And I think we also need to begin to question, which I notice a number of young people are beginning to do, question the digital world that they have created for us, that really at once it connects us in this wonderful way here. We're providing data to Zoom as we speak, but it also exposes us, and it also makes us lonely in a lot of ways. So I think we need to be aware. And Nancy just shared a interview with me about a book that I read that has really influenced my thinking about the digital world, and that's Nancy, help me out. Chris Hedges interviewed
Varoufakis.
Yeah, Varoufakis, right. And his idea of the digital world replicating what happened in the feudal times when the common land was enclosed.
Right.
And so he's thinking about the digital world as a kind of enclosure, which I think has made it necessary for me. Back in the day, I'm old enough to remember when I would get bank statements from my bank that would mailed, and it would come to my mailbox, and then I'd have them in my closet and I could look them up and reconcile them easily. Now I have 6 different accounts at 2 different banks, 3 if I include an economy of our own. And I have to have my password. I have to be authenticated. And then I'm limited in the time I'm on because they can time me out. And all of them have different programs, and those programs are changing all the time. So the map that I've been following might change because they've changed their program. So all of this, I think, is kind of overwhelming and worth thinking about as part of our context too. I'm sorry to go on so much.
Hey, you waited a long time.
Simon.
You were thinking all that time.
Yeah.
Tara, go ahead.
Okay, so I am going to connect some of the comments in the chat and share with you all some potentially new or difficult to understand information. So let me know how I can improve my communication around this. So,
Could I just ask Mary Beth, can you save the chat and then send it?
Of course.
Yeah.
so
Tara.
Krista, the first thing after Cheryl sent the disarm committee information, Krista said, that's one concern for me in Detroit, low-income housing and homelessness. And then Mary Sanderson said, sovereign wealth funds, great topic. If someone to do initial research for the Women, Money, and Democracy meeting, a report about sovereign wealth funds. I shared that an example of sovereign wealth funds is community land trusts, that in particular the indigenous who are trying to push forward land back are using these land trusts to do so. Someone shared, Lucille shared that matters greatly if sovereign wealth funds are nonprofit or for-profit or wholly public or not. Lucille also shared this excellent book from Peter Barnes that's called With Liberty and Dividends for All, One Problem with Oil and Other Natural Resource Related SWFs, which I'm not sure what that means, is that they encourage rather than limit further ecological extraction and destruction. What was that, SWF? Oh,
sovereign. Yeah.
Great. Okay. And then we also had a rousing conversation in response to, is it Tana or Tana? Tana's theme, suggestion for a theme, stop the coup. I said, or have our own. Mary Sanders said, sorry, our own what? And I said, what Tommy said, basically, that's our own version of stop the coup. And so now what I want to share is that from a local branch perspective, and she might be joining this call today, we just elected our local branch treasurer. Her name is Samar Musa. She's originally from Sudan, and she's 21 years old. I met her at the GW Palestine encampment where she had a philosophy table, and she's studying statistics and philosophy. And this is her, I'm going to drop in the chat her proposal, a research proposal that she is doing as part of her role as our local branch treasurer. You all can take a look at it. But here's the thing that I want to get across, which is that I'm hearing a lot of, fear about these sovereign wealth funds, the oligarchs, et cetera, and you're absolutely right. We should be very concerned about what they're doing. And I want to share that I am a co-pilot of a group through something called Mozilla Foundation. You might recognize Mozilla Firefox. So the name of the working group is Truth is a Public Good. And I want you all to know that anything they do, we are able to do as well. That is kind of the double-edged sword of, quote, technology, which literally just the etymology of the word technology, tech means arts and crafts. Knowledge means knowledge of, knowledge-y. So that's what technology is the exchange of knowledge related to arts and crafts. And we have at our disposal the ability to build anything that we want to build with this technology. That's where the technology is now. What I think ties all this together is if you read this article in the New Yorker, where it talks about GDP and where GDP came from. If it's okay, I'm just going to read to you all real quick a paragraph from this. How did we arrive at the contemporary fixation on growth? The concept of gross domestic product, originally gross national product, is less than a century old. It was not until 1933 that Simon Kuznets, a government economist who later won a Nobel Prize, was commissioned to create a systemic series of national accounts. Even from the start, Kuznets grasped that he was measuring the sum total of marketized output, not of human welfare. After publishing his proposed metric, he noted the obvious omission of, quote, services of housewives and other members of the family, and argued for the exclusion of expenditures that he considered socially unproductive, such as military spending, consumer marketing, and financial speculation. Keynes agreed. So this systemic series of national economic accounts, government statisticians standardize the system of national economic accounts. And so what I'm proposing, and what it sounds like everyone is proposing, is that we come up with our own system of accounting for what we consider to be growth, what we consider to be development. And if we need to use some of the master's tools like quote cryptocurrency, or what really is the baseline technology there, it's called decentralized consensus protocol, how nodes within a system communicate to each other in a decentralized way. That's what that technology is that they are using, that we also have access to, and we can also build our own. So just wanted to put that out there. And if anyone has any questions or wants to talk about this further in dialogue, I would love to figure out how to translate all that is possible at our fingertips to, you know, something that makes sense to you all and your experience, lived experience, and all the wisdom that you have. Thank you all so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Tara. Those are great ideas. I'm looking at the time and it's 12 here at my place. We've been at this for an hour and 13 minutes. I don't want people to go away. I think these are really valuable conversations. What we said we would do is that after an hour of absorbing ideas, we would, as a committee, look more deeply at how to implement some of them and prioritize which ones we believe we might be able to have some impact on. So I just want to let people know that we'll be moving now from pulling in ideas to more of a discussion of which ones have the most potential for change, how best to organize around those ideas, and last but probably most important, which of us will take some leadership on some of these projects. Nancy, your hand is up.
Yeah, well, I found that really helpful, Tara. The Environmental Working Group of International WILF has been talking about degrowth, and there's a lot of literature around degrowth now, which is quite interesting. It's maybe a term that's anyway, one can put a lot of those ideas around degrowth into a slightly different narrative, I think, which Tara was more or less sort of focusing on. So I'd like to see us come back to this conversation maybe later. I see a sort of narrative, you know, a counter narrative to what's going on now by Trump and Musk and et al. That we could talk about maybe trying to put together.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention, in case people aren't watching the chat, that Tara had suggested as a battle cry, stop the coup.
I like it.
All right. Okay, great.
Mary Beth, Kathy Bartholomew joined along the way, and maybe we could.
Thank you for pointing that out. I saw it and then I forgot to introduce her. Kathy, please tell us where you are and what your connection is with WILF.
Well, I've attended some meetings off and on. I'm in Greenbelt, Maryland, and I'm involved with Sierra Club, the county of Prince George's, and the state. And I'm also involved in legislation, supporting legislation with the Climate Justice Wing, Maryland Legislative Coalition. And I'm involved in a few other things. So that's why I don't always attend.
Well, we're happy you're here. And it sounds like you have a lot of important information to share. So thank you.
I'm also involved with Code Pink, Jewish Voice for Peace, and the Quakers, I forget, AFSC. I'm a Unitarian Universalist.
Okay. All right, good to know. We have a powerhouse of people here, guys.
Yeah, Kathy, I'm in those groups too. Thank you for mentioning them.
Yay. All right, Jean. Okay. And Code Pink is down there every day
Yeah.
in the halls, letting them know.
All right. Where would people like to go next? In terms of process on this call, we have a lot of ideas on the table. I liked Tommy's idea of a unifying theme. I think that would be important. In the 1990s and early 2000s, our unifying theme was corporations versus democracy. And I think that that was a powerful theme. It was shocking at the time because people hadn't really started to think about corporations as the bad guys yet. Is there a theme that we can come up with that is that kind of powerful, that talks about the kinds of things we want to accomplish?
Mary Beth, asking about process. I'm not the only one. It seems like others are also saying it's going pretty fast right now and it's exciting. There's lots of interest. How about like a 10-minute break for each of us to try to synthesize what we've got so far that feels valuable and try to put a couple puzzle pieces together. I think a lot of these things we've talked about could fit together in projects for women, money, and democracy. But you know, when we're listening, it's important to listen, and you can't formulate your own thoughts while you're doing it. So I don't know if others would agree that a synthesizing break would be helpful. I don't know.
Okay, Tara, you have your hand up.
I think that's a great idea. Something that I just want to share is that I have found that especially when communicating to people who are younger than me, anything that puts us into a binary of like good versus evil or degrowth, that we are pursuing something that is both a reaction and therefore a proaction, it gets people into a limited binary that is not necessary. So if we can come up with a theme that is one of proaction, one that is organic, so like corporations versus people, that's a great simple kind of theme. I would encourage us all to start thinking of the theme being something that is purely in organic proaction, so that then we can speak to people who are already, I mean, you know, the younger generation, they're already living in this multidimensional world. I've heard other people on this call say it, that like they're not really trusting the binaries of their previous generations. They're kind of like looking to see, you know, what makes sense on its face. So that's just something that I think if we can come up with a theme that in and of itself, it just says what it is, and not what we don't want or what we are reacting to, it will communicate a forward-looking, you know, kind of platform.
Okay, it's 12:20. What if we take a 10-minute break at the half hour mark? Let's return, In the meanwhile, Tara, I'd like for you to think about examples of what that kind of theme might look like. Not that these are the ones we're gonna jump onto, but
Kind of
just give us examples of what that kind of non-binary theme might look like.
Well, but
And everybody else, be thinking about all of the themes and all of the projects or issues that were proposed and how we might organize them and prioritize them based on, our limited capacity, what's practical in reality, and how we could actually win both visibility and impact change. So let's meet again. Let's come back here. I'm not going to stop the Zoom, but I'm going to go get a drink of water. You do the same for like 10 minutes. And Lucille, are you saying something?
You want to pause the recording while we take a 5 or whatever?
Can I do that?
You can
Yeah.
pause it, yeah. But
Okay.
and please, if anyone has to leave, we'll understand, but it's super great if you can stay at least to share what you distill.
okay. Look at what the
Are we all back?
Yes, we'd like to say something when it's opportune.
Oh, okay.
Jim
Let's
Allison.
wait till everyone's here. I'm looking at Tana and Tara, who are apparently not in their seats. And I'm hoping that everybody else is.
I don't know why you don't want the video on.
If I didn't comb my hair, I didn't.
It's all right.
Okay.
You look fine.
Yes, Lucille put into the chat. She's meaning to talk about the concentration of wealth and power in our modern economy and so-called democracy and its defying of human and ecological sustainability and justice. That kind of goes along with the degrowth topic as well, but and it certainly is in line with the work that we've done in the past on corporations versus democracy. The essence of that work was keeping big money and power out of our democracy. And, the odds were stacked against us right from the beginning. But we at least succeeded, I think, in raising the awareness of the problem. There were, even back then, I think you'd agree with this, Jim, there were precious few solutions that we were able to offer people. Mostly that course that we did talked about how we got into this mess.
Right.
Not how we could get out.
Not how we could get out, right? And meanwhile, if you're aware of the Powell Manifesto that came out in the 70s, which was a pushback on the activism of the 60s, especially the environmental pushback, the environmental organizing, they wrote an exquisite roadmap, which they followed religiously for 40 years or more.
Yep.
And I think that I have thought for a long time that just if the Democrats would have followed it in reverse,
Right.
we would have been working at least on reversing some of the steps that they were putting in place. Yeah, if you're not familiar with the Powell memo or the Powell manifesto, take a look at it. It's stunning in its breadth and in the way that every piece of it has been accomplished. It's unnerving, really.
How do you spell that? How?
Powell. It's
Oh,
Lewis
Powell Memo.
Powell.
Okay, okay.
Yes. And then Powell became a Supreme Court justice.
Yes, he did. He started as he was kind of a flunky for the
Railroad?
Tobacco lawyer.
Tobacco.
he
Was it?
he was a
Virginia
tobacco lawyer, and
lawyer.
he worked a lot with what do they call that business group, Jim? The
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce. Yes, thank you. He worked with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which was feeling that the activism of the 60s was an attack on corporate America. And boy, did they push back.
Hello?
They were extremely effective.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
I do bring up the Powell Memo a lot, and I appreciate what you're saying. But the power of it was not in how exquisite or brainy or whatever he was, or even his writing. The power of it was, as you suggested, that he was working with the Chamber of Commerce. He was working with not just them, but with all that power that had been already accumulated by accumulating wealth, extracting, creating inequality over a couple centuries. All this wealth and power had been accumulated, and the Powell Memo is working with it. And anybody who tried to go the other way is working from the other side with no, relatively speaking, no resources anymore. So to me, that's the most important part of the Powell thing, is it demonstrates the already accumulated power of accumulated wealth already in 1970. I think it's such an important period. This is the early 70s. I won't go on. Sorry.
But there was one other thing about the Powell Memo. It said to all these corporate powers is stop lobbying on your own little interests of cigarettes or soap or oil or whatever it is. You've got to pull it all together, and we're gonna operate as one, and we're going to put our money in a strategy so that we can have absolute power.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you.
Something that the left has never been able to do is put aside our differences in order to show a united front.
That's not true. As actually FDR and all the people that pulled together under FDR was what the right wing modeled when they began to do pulling all the people together so that they could be strong enough to take over.
Good point. Good point. And let's hear it for Catherine Perkins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Frances Perkins. Frances Perkins. Right.
Yes. Frances.
Okay. We had, I'm eating my lunch while we talk, which is why my picture's off. But let's hear what we came up with during our 10-minute break. Tara, do you have some examples of what non-binary themes might look like?
I do, but I really want to hear what other people's themes are, because I have a feeling that I can demonstrate what I'm talking about better with like a real life application. So shamelessly share your themes, y'all. I want to hear what they are.
Would it be possible to first have a show of hands? How many people did try to synthesize and come up with an idea they want to share with the whole group? I don't know. I'm just curious if half or more of us are trying to do that. I see Kathy and Cheryl.
We did.
And the Allisons and Stacy.
I think many of us have at least the germ of an idea.
Very cool. Yeah. Super cool. All right. So then who's brave enough to start is the next one. And Lucille put something in the chat. Who's brave enough to start? Stacy's got her hand up.
Yeah, it's just a
Cheryl has her hand up.
Yeah, it's just a brainstorming session, so I don't mind. I just wrote it in the chat. I said,
okay.
My first one was the ripoff, an economy that we own from a HEOO. economy of our own. More themes, we the people economy, like, Declaration of Independence, economy, money and freedom economics, next level economy. I was trying to synthesize around that idea of inclusivity, without saying the word, but also like positive, basically. That's what.
The commons.
So Stacy, were you
No.
like putting pieces together from what was already said and trying to think of a possible project for women, money, and democracy? Or did I miss?
Well, no, I hadn't gotten that far yet, because I thought we were, the way I was looking at it was synthesizing creating a unifying theme.
Uh-huh.
And then underneath it would be a plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Can you write that into the chat, Stacy?
Or say those themes over again that came to
Well,
you.
I put them in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, they're in the chat.
Thank you. And Cheryl, you're next.
Yes, I came up with, and I put it in the chat some time ago. Democracy depends on equitable wealth, where it's up to us to decide what do we mean by equitable wealth, but that there's you cannot have a democratic society with the wealth differences that we currently suffer from.
To me, that sounds very much like that statement about justice for one is justice for all. But okay. Kathy Bartolomeo.
Yeah, I ordered the Code Pink book, the Local Peace Economy Workbook, and it goes through 23 pivots to peace, and I can put them in the chat. It's too long, but I can try to write it in the chat. But one starts out with alienation to connection, and then another self-directed to community engagement, engaged, from going to competition to interdependence. So it has all these things from where we are to where we could go. I can just put it in the chat, it'd be easier.
Okay.
I'd like that very much. Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Stacy's themes are we the people economy, money and freedom economics, next level economy. I will note that one of the things that's being offered to our committee by an ally group called Invest for Better. They are putting energy into an initiative this year called the She Economy.
That's interesting.
This is a group of women who are have some discretionary wealth. I don't know how much, but they're looking at ways to use their wealth to make the world a better place. And the first thing that they're planning to do as part of their She Economy piece is to put out a question of what would the world look like if women had been leading for the last 100 years.
Oh, absolutely. Oh God. Yes.
And their idea is to create a vision of what an alternate world with feminist principles might have looked like. You know, we might have better healthcare. We might have a more equitable tax system. We might have more research onto cancer and the kinds of health issues that women face. We might have less homelessness. We might have more participatory budgeting kinds of things. We might have You know, it would look very much, we would have more livable communities. We would have less war. We would be investing in the things that people actually care about. That's their premise. And they're asking our committee to endorse this process of the question and the she economy. It's something that we probably need to talk about at some point after we finish conclude this discussion. But it's the she economy might be an idea if we don't feel that it's excluding too many non-she people. Jean, you have your hand up. You're on mute.
Yeah, you remind me saying, what would our economy look like if, you know, a woman had been elected president? And I'm thinking, what would this whole nation be like if, you know, a Native American woman had been our first president? And I think, oh, you know, we would have been more conscientious of our environment probably. And I just would like us to think about the future now, where Mother Nature really is creating people who are neither he or she, but, you know, in between we have many transgender people. It's let's say sexuality is changing. We can't have just she or he. It's you know, sometimes it's both. As in Native American, they call Two Spirit. And so I want us to be inclusive.
Okay. Good point. All right, who else did some work over these 10 minutes that you want to share, at least some ideas? They don't have to be perfect. Just tell us where you went in those 10 minutes.
I will.
Go ahead.
I kind of went straight for possible projects for the Women Money Democracy Committee, and I really appreciated all that was said. I won't repeat it, but I just want to say I appreciated a lot of it. So potential combination projects with Disarm, a project about understanding Treasury and finance and their links to war. That would be one. We could have a combo project with Earth Democracy, finding out how the same money system is underneath the environmental destruction and the war. Yeah, that would be another studying project, as Cheryl suggested. And I think those are really important because I think those connections, are not well known by most people. Just like back in the day, corporate personhood was not well known, and Wilf was able to bring that to the larger public. How the money system undergirds the stuff, and how there are changes available, known changes and work being done. I think that we could have teaching, learning projects with those two committees. And I would like us to have a combo project with AHR about learning about how finance and the money system has so much to do with the lack of housing. No. So those would be three great projects in my view. I want to say that I love Mary Beth List. I love honestly, I'm very grateful to you for putting all that thought into it. You covered a lot of territory there. Health, education, the bail system, and many, many things. However, like in the previous conversation, a lot of people said we do need a more unifying theme. A list sort of spreads us too thin. And what I mostly want to say about the list thing is any list thing that we pick up and you know, really go for if we have, let's say, housing, wonderful housing projects, a land trust and so forth, and we put a lot of energy in it and so forth, it's going to face the same wall of resistance from the power centers as if we go right away for the key root systemic money problem that's underneath all of it. So just to keep in mind that, yes, every initiative, small, medium, large, that anybody does in their area or in their bigger committee, it's all valuable, very, very valuable. But little things will meet the same freaking resistance as if we study and dig deep enough to go for something that could really make a holistic difference in the way our future looks. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes furiously. Okay.
Yeah.
Tara, you had your hand up.
Okay. Mary Beth, are you able to share your screen or make me co-host so that I can share my screen real quick?
Yes. Hold on a second.
Okay, y'all. What our the branch treasurer, our local branch treasurer joined the call. Summer, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself in a second and share what you'd like to share. But I just want to share for you, sis, that this brain trust, literally like our little humanoid brains would not be able to handle the magnitude of the women and siblings that are on this call, the experience and wisdom and knowledge. So I'm like shaking with excitement. You all are so amazing. And to have our little sister here to come and present her wild idea. I mean, this is just like, I can't put into words in this colonizer's tongue how special this feels. So you all, I introduced Summer. I told you all what, that she's been working on this proposal as branch treasurer. And I also want you all to know that she is taking a break from studying to be able to join this call briefly. So she's going to leave whenever she feels that she needs to. And I'm taking notes and will follow up with anything so that to make sure that she is caught up with anything that's discussed here.
And we're recording, so we can share the recording.
Yes. Summer, are you, well, Mary Beth, are you able to share your screen? Because I kind of want to put up on the screen what Summer's proposal is while she's speaking.
I gave you permission. Go for it.
Sweet. Okay, great. Okay, sis, go ahead, take yourself off mute and share what you'd like to share.
All right. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Hi. So yes, I want to introduce myself. My name is Summer. I'm a senior at George Washington University, and I study statistics. I met Tara at a very unique situation, and we have discussed this proposal about a woman-centered economic and housing system. As you mentioned earlier, I really like the discussion about how would the world look like had women been, in charge. But this is the assumption that so-called these women don't have or have undone patriarchal education or patriarchal conditioning that they have been under. A lot of women, unfortunately, are victims. A lot of us are victims of patriarchal conditioning. So we need to find a way to educate us, give us confidence in our intellect, and understand that we are not our enemies. We are sisters, we are brothers all together. In this proposal, I combine worker co-ops and housing. How can women create a living environment where they work and they reap all of the fruits of their labor? So if you'd like, I will read the proposal here, and if you'd like, you can go through it. This is what I'm working on with Tara. So the proposed research project seeks to create a revolutionary economic system sustained and developed by women for women. This system envisions a community where women of all ages and backgrounds live together, fostering a strong network that offers services specifically designed to meet diverse needs for women. The goal is to develop a safe, reassuring, and protective housing co-op model that goes beyond material provisions, addressing the philosophical and emotional needs of women, encouraging freedom from patriarchal expectations. This is not only a way to address women materially, which is obviously their emotional needs, their physical needs, etc. But this is also a way to approach women education-wise and intellect-wise, and how can we understand ourselves outside of everything that we know, because everything that we know is, again, patriarchal, classist, etc., etc. So this is just what I wanted to share. If you have any questions or any comments, I'd appreciate them.
Okay. Thank you, little sister. You're amazing. What I'll say is that, so to anchor this in real time, the way that Summer and I and the whole branch are starting is that we're starting with a very basic need, which is that in order for us as a branch to purchase a banner collectively, we need a bank account. And we are trying to figure out where is the best place for us to open our bank accounts so that it is summiting the future. It is already putting that money into a place that we can access and have transparent accounting of as members of the branch, and that from now until our granddaughters, it will be there. So if you all have any information, I've tried reaching out to Barbara to see if there's any guidance on how a branch treasurer should function, any resources. If you all have any information about where to open this bank account, that is like the place where we're starting this. And then the physical location of the pilot of this proposal that Summer has brought forward is in what I call the belly of the piece. It is a physical address at 2410 20th Street, Northwest Washington, D.C. And I am now inviting any WILF member to come and see it and stay there and cook food there and leave your mark on this physical location. So that's where I'm gonna stop this, Summer's proposal, reach out. This is gonna be like, a one-to-one relational building. And then just to kind of look over the proposed themes, I think they're all great. I really love, I really love all of them. And what I'll share with you all is that the one that I came up with actually like this morning is summiting the future. And really what I want to, that's just to throw, like, it's up to all of us to decide what the theme is. But I think if we can kind of use our Sankofa, go back to look forward. If you look at the etymology of the word economy, it comes from the Greek oikos nemen. Oikos means home, and nemen means management of. So it's just that simple. People managing their home. Your physical shelter, your mind, body, spirit, that's your home. The city that you live in or the municipality where you collect resources in the form of, quote, taxes and a treasury. Mother Earth is our home. This universe is our home. So it's really that simple. It's just collectively managing our home. So yeah, basically, I don't know if that helps, Mary Beth, in terms of my feedback on the theme. I think any one of these could be, whatever we come up with could be great. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But I've been using in my mind, summiting the future or building our home in our image. But I like the idea of using the word economy. I like the idea of using something that indicates Mary Sanderson's point that, like, at the end of the day, we have it in our title, right? Women, money, democracy. What is in the middle? What is at the center? Money, currency. How do we transact value? So I like the idea of using money in there or currency. But yeah, basically that's my feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. I want to hear what everyone else came up with during that 10 minutes. I like the idea of the non-binary theme, and I put in the chat that we did a webinar in 2022 called The Future in Our Pocket, which it might also translate into a theme that addresses many of these overarching issues. So,
I
Jim
really
and
like
Tom,
that one because women's clothing intentionally does not have pockets in it, which is so frustrating. And to Summer's point about how the patriarchy is just like conditioning us without us even realizing, I really like the future in our pocket.
Mary Beth, maybe before moving on, ask if anyone wants to comment on what Tara and Samar presented for
Good
just
idea.
a second before, and then move on and then ask for comments on what each one says.
Okay, thank you, Mary, for that process suggestion. Let's hear responses to Tara's and Samar's presentation or ideas. Did you want to respond to that, Lucille?
I do, because I was just writing it into the chat, which I totally concur with what Ricky said earlier. It's impossible to do both, but it's in the chat now, and you know, like it or not, any bank, any credit union, they're all part of our existing money system. Period. That said, I prefer credit unions a little bit better, slightly, but if you have a public bank in your area, but still, it too will be part of the money creation process as we currently have it. We need money reform to change that. That said, there is an alternative. I can't yet recommend it because I'm doing a close read, but I have worked on local currency, complementary currency stuff since, you know, the early 2000s. And this is an interesting network. They've been around quite a while, and I would love, and they have a framework. So municipal and local, state complementary currency system, and they've created sort of a people's ledger, a framework, a digital framework for that. I still need to do the close reading, but I had a long conversation with the executive director. It's super interesting. If I'm right, I have this hunch, and I'll finish here, that it is a work in the real world, real need situations where exactly what Ricky said before about, you know, producing the real productive economy of producing real goods and services in a not-for-profit framework of using these local currencies and in a bubble up way. This is the key part for me as a macro, micro level thinker, that it has potential to be there as we experience crises. And they're coming, we will, they're here, they've been here for most communities for hundreds of years. But a way to do it that people can go, duh, we should be having a public money system, and it can bubble up to the national level by default almost. So I'll stop there, but that was my answer.
Okay. Ricky, you're next on my screen. You're on mute, though. You're still on mute.
You've got to figure out which place to click, right? I just figured out how to raise my hand. It took me quite a while. So anyway, Tara, I'm so excited about, and I'm sorry, I've got her name covered up, your co-conspirator.
Samar.
Real quick, sorry, Ricky, real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt. Mary Beth, can you pause the recording real quick? I want to try something.
Oh boy. Well, Tara and Sama, I am very excited about your project focusing on housing and woman-centered housing. I mean, it reminds me of when women first began to imagine safe houses for women who were victims of what then didn't have a name until Ms. came out with battered women. So that was like a radical idea. No one, how on earth could you possibly do it? And yet women have done a tremendous job. My daughter works, actually heads in an organization now that is, they call it Circle, and it's a domestic violence agency. But she tells me that the greatest demand there is out there is for housing. And so expanding that network in a way, connecting with that network if you can, might be a good way to build alliances, I'm thinking. And I definitely will share what I'm learning today about your project with my daughter and other people I can think of. While I'm on the subject, I guess I'll just raise another interesting proposal that one of An Economy of Our Own's Alliance members, Rianne Eisler, is organizing. She talked with me about something called Peace Begins in the Family, an international conference that she's hoping to organize or planning to organize in September. And I just throw it out there because I think it might be of interest to WILF. And it's another way to make violence personal for all of us. I mean, we can all learn skills for being more peaceable in our own homes, in our own families, and think about how that's related to larger pictures about state violence and militaries. Anyway, yeah.
Okay. Next up is Tana Hartman.
Unmute.
Right, yep, now I got it, thanks. Hi, I found the proposal that Samar and no, I've gone blank.
Tara
made really fascinating because I'm about to change my life entirely. My daughter and granddaughter are moving in with me because the situation here in Chapel Hill has gotten so extreme. My daughter earns nearly $100,000 a year, and her house was destroyed by mold after Helene. And so anyway, they are moving in here for her to figure out what to do next. And the situation, I've just come from a WILF meeting where we're looking at homelessness here in the area too. So I'm very interested in your project. I think it sounds fascinating, and I'd very much like to read more, the whole proposal, if it's available.
Okay. I see Kathy Bartolomo, your hand is up.
Well, I was talking to a therapist yesterday. I don't think it was a client of hers, but something she knew. And it just, from what Tara was talking about and Samara, how important it is for women to be careful with their finances. Where a young woman was connected with a fiance, and I think she was paying a lot of the bills, but she was thinking of, he was saying, recommend, well, you can just use my bank account. And we were thinking, no, keep your own bank account. So just a thought.
Okay. Jim, Allison in the chat said, I think we need more discussion on what we think is a good economy. We're talking about defining economy different from what we have been taught in every aspect. our present economy has produced our climate crisis, inequality, and democracy's demise, as well as many good advances. Yeah, it's kind of the difference between distributing pieces of a pie or baking a whole new pie. This is what a simile that Ricky used with me earlier this week, and I think it's so true. When we're coming up with ideas for either analysis or education or action, three things that I think we really need in this committee. Let's try to prioritize ideas that will move us towards baking a new pie rather than figuring out how to serve up the one that we have and aren't really too excited about. So thank you, Jim. Nancy.
Thank you. So I wanted to comment about local currency, because back in the 2000s, we had Davis dollars, and it was quite a good effort, but we never really had that many people using the Davis dollars. So it kind of crashed after a while. And but I think it's a very interesting idea to bring back. And I'd like to know, I don't remember who was introduced that. Yeah, oh, Lucille, you were reading a book. Did
Well,
you put the title?
I posted the link. It's an organization called Sustainable Communities Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
And they also have, so it's a 501c3, 501c4. I had no idea until a few months ago that there are like 29 kinds of 501cs. And a C4 is not simply a political lobbying organization. It's defined as a social welfare organization that can work on public policy. Anyhow, but that's besides the point a little bit, but it enables them to do what they're doing a little differently. But it's all on their website. There's a ton there to read, and I would like to do a study group on it. So, you know, maybe this committee and WELF is one place to advertise it. And, you know, I was wanting to do it within the Alliance for Just Money, but it's different from what the Alliance works on. We work at the macro level, but what is, and I know, I mean, I knew Margaret Kennedy, who wrote, you know, a 1980s book called Interest and Inflation-Free Money. And then she wrote, asked by the Occupy movement, she wrote Occupy Money, I think, in, you know, the 2010s and something, 2016. She died. And my last conversation with her before she died was just, you know, Margaret, you needed at least 1 or 2 or 3 paragraphs in the book that made the link to the macro level system. And she said, you're absolutely right, Lucille. You write that book and I'll write the preface for it. And we both knew she was dying of cancer at the time. That said, I think what's intriguing about the Sustainable Communities Foundation work is that they get that link, and it's a little bit Trojan horse, you know, from his perspective. I still need to read the fine print, so I'm not 100% sure about it. But the Alliance is going directly. We expect to change the money system through reform at a legislative level. You know, we don't even have the blank thing introduced yet. You know, we don't have enough people who, like, with all due respect, you know, the James in the room, like, yes, we need a new economy, but we don't, like, we need a new money system. That's what we have to bake to be able to bake a new pie economy. Anyhow, I think this work might be a way of doing it without them knowing that's what we're doing. We're bubbling it up to, you know, municipal, state. DC is not a state, but I think it is a municipality. And, you know, so how you do it in DC is intriguing, but, you know, and then the federal level eventually. And a lot of people have worked on these over the last 20, 30 years. And anyhow, enough on it. But.
Stacy, your hand is up, and then Tara.
Okay, just a couple of items. One is so I recently started a Google alert on homelessness, and because we had talked about that subject as a inter-subject with AHF. But putting that aside for a second, just as a means, a tool, we or I could also set up a Google alert on political economies that are emerging. For example, Lucille speaking just reminded me of that. There are people or communities that maybe they are doing things. We know they are about housing and other areas. The other thing is back to Tara's point about summoning the future. I really think that was good, because also then we got an illustration of it in kind of a negative way, actually, because when not Tara, excuse me, I'm going to mix people up now. Is there another Tara on this call?
Hannah.
Who?
Hannah.
Well, Hannah, who was from
T-A-N-A.
North Carolina and talking about her daughter?
Hannah.
Yes. So she was talking about that, and that was an amazing story to me about how her daughter, so she has a great salary, but the climate and the FEMA situation and everything is breaking down her ability to kind of quote unquote live as independently, which is our ideal in the Western world. And that's part of the problem too. We know that's a Western cultural, it's a huge error, of course. It's contributing, to, as Tara's brought in a lot about the indigenous and things like that, occupation. I mean, that's that, but going straight at that, so that's like woke and that's all that crap. So what I'm saying is, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it is, but that, so what I want to say about that is that's a really good point, because so people are like motivated by things that are positive coming into the future, but they can also be motivated by things that are negative. And that's a perfect example of a system not working. Well, even though she's there, her mom's there, but not everybody's mom is there. And then you rely on the family, and who's there? The grandmother, the mother, and the daughter. Okay, the women, that's great. That's empowering. However, again, not everybody has that, right? So I think that's a really good example of how, like, the future, you could be summoning a future that's, I mean, I don't know where to go with this. I'm just saying that summoning the future is like, the future could be like, falling down and drowning in the mud, or the future could be like, much better, That's all.
Okay. Next is Tana. And then, sorry, next is Tara, and then Tana. All the T's.
Right.
Tana, you go first. I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that I love the way y'all tie this all together in the bigger picture, because both my daughter and my daughter is a researcher in women's health. She has been a nurse for a long time. She has won awards. She works very, very hard, and she's just been responsible for her company now winning an award here in North Carolina. But so it's not that she's just, trying to struggle, but this Chapel Hill has not done very well at all with affordable housing, and that's not uncommon. And what we're seeing is huge developments here. And I'm very interested, because I actually have had a family member who wound up homeless. Very interested in that, and have decided I'm going to start attending here to learn more. And then our WILF group here looked today and talked about how can we connect these things. And I thought, well, I know one way is that I want to learn more about homelessness in the area, whom it's impacting, how I know a lot of what's been impacting women's health. I know we're facing a whole new slew of environmental problems with the pipelines coming through. We just learned recently that they're building new coal ponds, the coal ash ponds, where nobody ever actually made it that public. So anyway, there's a lot going on here. It's all tied together, and our money system is at the heart of it.
Right.
And
That's what drives the
would
whole thing.
Yeah, I want to figure out how do we connect it, but we have to start. I'm also seeing in every group I'm involved with these days, I'm seeing people wanting to turn more inward. They want to look and want to build relationships in our communities. You know, people are coming to my little church again, Unity, the Unity Center of Peace. But they're turning up because they want community, and people are talking about, you know, what is happening? What are you feeling? What are you seeing? And I'm seeing a lot happening from women, young women who are bringing things together. And I've got a crazy cat who doesn't like me having other attention. Sorry. Anyway, I think there's a lot happening, and I am trying to learn more about what we can do to help that. And I absolutely agree that women understanding what it means for their own, you know, families and well-being, and not just to accept the corporate model of,
Right, exactly.
of
Thanks, Tara.
prosperity.
Before we go too much further, and before we hear from Tara again, I'd like to do as Mary Sanderson has suggested in the chat, and ask to hear some response or, you know, where just how you are feeling about what we're talking about, from Krista, then Diane, then Robin, and then YH. So if you'll unmute and just weigh in on, you know, what do you think about this conversation and where we're headed?
You women are so smart. I don't know if I can speak as eloquently. I like what I'm hearing. Currently looking at Code Pink to see what that's about. We're in an 1800-year-old church. The Swords and the Plowshares is a ministry of this church, the Central United Methodist Church. And we are currently redeveloping our church for low-income housing. And it's been a very hard battle to deal with not having the space for the amount of units we want versus what we have to create. And it's gonna affect our gallery, which is why I'm an art teacher, so I love being a part of the art gallery and the Peace Center. But the women economics, I know it's the new thing with my gallery is we have transgender, and I am always getting in trouble for not saying the pronouns right, but it's something we practice at to get better. And I am learning a lot from you women, but at the same time, it's like, do we have a transgender here to kind of make us change? So that's something we can kind of work towards as a goal when there is someone here who says, you know, I'm a he or a they, and still wanted to be in the women's group. I don't know. I think that's kind of a neat problem to have too, though. All right. I'm listening and learning, so that's where I'll leave you.
Thanks, Krista.
Okay, so I'll say this, even though I'm sure nobody, I mean, probably won't take me up on it, but I think a way to get people really interested in coming to these meetings, Women, Money, Democracy meetings, is to have at every meeting a response to the new Trump dictates or responses to how it affects women, how this, what's happening to the money, what's you know, aid, what's going with that. But that takes a little bit of expertise. But I think if everybody kind of worked on it and we had a discussion, I think it would be quite interesting. But that is like response to something. And Mary Beth was just saying we need to be proactive and look for the future. But I think that we would be seeing how that these horrible things that are happening are affecting people. So I think that might be a way to get people to respond. And I just wanted to mention, I just listened to a Ben Norton podcast where he said that Blackstone has 300,000 housing units. It's purely investments. And and that this Stephen guy, Stephen, whatever his name, anyway, was a huge funder of Trump. So I just think that we just have to really work on changing this. A house should not, all these houses should not be investments. People should be living in them. So
Absolutely.
I think Robin was next.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. During the intermission, I was walking out and looking at the trees and the maple trees and the fact that the sap is rising. That's not much of a slogan and it's been used so much, but the thought that comes to mind is I'm working with an African-American woman who's running for city council in South Burlington. And, you know, she doesn't really have the money to even buy a website to try to get people to give her money. And so I'm working with that. And that's why I was hoping that Ricky might come on. This woman's name is Lydia Diamond. So I sent an email to Ricky saying maybe we can get the two diamonds together to think about some of the economics here. Just one last thing. I'm sitting here with a homeless man who was my gardener last summer. And I'm telling him I can't talk to him because I'm talking to you. So
Oh, no, it's fine. I'm just enjoying listening.
yeah. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Robin. And then I think Jean Hopkins was the last one.
No, I wasn't planning on saying anything, and I think there are other hands up.
Okay. All right. Tara?
Oh my gosh, y'all, this is incredible. So I have to, my dear friend is visiting me, and she was on a call, and while I was taking this call, now she's done, and I'm excited to go back and spend time with her. Also, really looking forward to following up on where this conversation goes. I'm gonna put in the chat my 3 takeaways. And basically, I think what I'd like to share now. So here they are. So the first one is actually, what is this? The first one is this, the second one is that. Oh, and then Krista's follow-up. On low-income housing. Okay, so here are my takeaways. So the first one is Stacy. Sister, thank you for what you shared because you helped me transform my theme. Before I was using summiting the future, and with what you shared, Stacy, about how the theme is that, Indigenous spirit, the womb, creative source energy will bring to light, bring to this second and third dimension, things like the Hull House or things like the 60s. And then corrupted power, the colonizer, will see it and be most quick to steal it, right? So Labor Day as an example, who started Labor Day? Women. And where did that day go, right? Like where did it start? Where did it go? Hull House. We are still able to see the benefits of that, but how much were those ideas actually scaled? So to what you said, Stacy, you said that like the idea of the future going either which way, it could be something that doesn't give a lot of anchor to the word summiting the future. So I changed it to summiting our, right? Your with a lowercase y and our with uppercase O-U-R. So that, Mary Beth and others, I hope you now see, like, this is what I mean when I say we have to kind of come together and figure out how to flip the upside down world right side up when we use this upside down world language and the colonizer's tongue, right? The second follow-up is that Tana, I am going to either you reach out to me, or if you would like me to follow up with you, put your information in the chat, because this point that you made about your mother, your daughter, and your granddaughter, when Robin hosted us for the Northeast regional gathering and the thing that she does at her beautiful home at Wing Farm, we had a conversation about this, about how many people are in the exact same position that you're in and have these homes and would like to, see what can be done with this asset in the spirit of an economy of our own, economy of our own. And so we came up with this initial kind of survey idea of being like, let's just see within the people that we know, how do we account for assets that could be put into a collective economy, right? So if someone has a 5-bedroom house and they're only using 1 bedroom of it, there you go. That's 4 rooms in the cooperative. So I would like Summer and I to have a interpersonal, one-to-one relational dialogue with you over these questions. I'll follow up with you on that. And then the last one is Krista. I know very intimately what you were talking about the challenges of when there is a communal interest asset, like a home with 4 extra bedrooms, or a church that would like to, kind of decolonize its property. There are all these barriers in place to make sure that you continue to fortify the master's house and the master's pocket and the master's economic system. And I would love to share with you what I've learned about how to use the master's tools to build our own home, and not just dismantle his, especially around this fascinating tax structure that is called low income tax credit incentive, which is basically just a way for banks to be able to shuffle money around. So if you'd like to follow up with me on that, I would love to share it with you. I'll share with you all that a lot of my passion, I'm going to get a little emotional. I'm sorry if this is a trigger to anyone, especially to our brother who is experiencing homelessness. A lot of my ideas came from the fact that I also experienced homelessness. Just recently, for about 1.5 years, 2 years, I was living out of my van, and I'm from Iran. I don't have family for thousands of miles, and there is no reason. I cannot understand how it happened to me. And to the point that I think it was Tana who was saying, I'm not sure who was saying that, or no, Stacy, it was you that was saying that, like, a lot of us don't have mothers or grandmothers or anywhere to go. And we just need to make sure that doesn't happen as much as we can. So the commitment that I made to myself is that whoever is, Summer still on the line, whoever is branch treasurer should get free or deeply affordable housing. And so that is the immediate goal that we have as a branch, is that to see if we can find a place for Summer to have either free or deeply, deeply affordable housing for at least 6 months while she is working as treasurer and working on this project. And, through that experience, being able to, we need a laboratory, we need a safe space for people to be able to actually build this world of collective liberation that can exist in this dimension as well. So that's kind of the what I'll leave you all with. Thank you for holding space for me to share that with you all. I'm sorry if it was triggering, and I'm so grateful for you all. I'm so grateful for this space and for you all taking 5 freaking hours on a Saturday to see what can be done. I thank you all so much. I'm gonna say goodbye now. Sorry, I'm crying out of gratitude and happiness and joy. Thank you all.
Thanks for joining us, Tara, and for your
Bye, all.
ideas.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, I see hands up, Nancy, then Tana, then YPAT. YH, I'm sorry. Actually, I said YH, we'd ask for her input before and I didn't call on her. So can we hear from YH first?
Thank you. I had two thoughts, and somebody mentioned it before, that starting our gatherings with this sort of an update of I feel like we're in a state of emergency, and that it would be really helpful to have any updates and any of your analysis about what might happen or what we could do if Social Security is frozen and food stamps and all these other things that are happening and likely to happen. And also underscoring, somebody mentioned Yanis Varoufakis's work on techno-feudalism,
Yes.
which I find very, very helpful,
Yeah.
because
Good.
he is articulating something where we are being coerced forcefully into a rent economy.
Right.
And I think it's very possible, I can imagine, that the oligarchs are going to force us into a cryptocurrency. And it was done about a decade ago in El Salvador, where overnight, during a natural disaster, the president took and forced Bitcoin on the economy, replacing the dollar. So it is actually very possible for them to do this. And all of you that think about this much more than I do, I would like any input from you on terms of pragmatically what 2025 has laid out and what might be happening. Thank you.
Thanks, YH. Yeah, I remember hearing about the El Salvador issue. Nancy, could you put Yanis's name, which is hard to pronounce and even hard to spell, into the chat so everyone can see?
Yeah.
And Tana, yeah, you were
Bye.
your hands up.
I thought Nancy was next.
Yeah,
Her hand up before
I
mine.
did have it up and then I hit it. I just
okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that it strikes me that when we're talking about homelessness, we really need to analyze the causes and be very clear about the causes. And when somebody was talking about or mentioned just recently about banks and private investors, et cetera, are buying up homes and then they rent them out. That's happening in lots of places, especially university towns, where they can cram, 3, 4, 5, 6 students into a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house. And in Davis, it's really creating a crisis, because when we talk about affordable housing or housing for faculty or other folks rather than students, there's no housing for that group of people needing housing. So this town, for example, is really facing a multiple of crises when it comes to housing and affordability. I just wanted to also mention that there's a huge housing development being proposed here in Davis, which is all very expensive, 1,800 expensive homes. And so we've been protesting this and trying to force a change in the development plan to have, because this is all single houses, to have co-op housing, to have communal kitchens, to have gardens. None of that's included in this plan. So we're trying to address the issue of the draft EIR, Environmental Impact Report, to change, to demand that some of these changes are made. Whether we're successful or not is another problem. But I do think, the housing crisis in 2008 is partly responsible for some of the homeless crisis now. So if we look at some of these causes and really outline them, I think that could be a great help.
I agree.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Let's hear from Smart, because I know that she's not going to be able to stay for a long time. So go ahead, Smart.
Yeah, I will go back to studying soon, but I did want to again thank you all for commenting, and I appreciate your questions. Number two, I want to mention that homelessness is 100% a man-made situation.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
a system. This is a byproduct of capital, and as long as we have these, as long these crises are framed to be unprecedented to capital, as in like it's isolated. It's not capital's fault. It is a complete situation of nature, right? This is how they manipulate us and believe that, oh, there aren't much ways that we can fix the situation. So, like for let's say we have some sort of natural disaster, or we have some sort of again sickness that's going around, right? A lot of people are going to be losing their homes because again only a couple people are owning all of these homes, and it's not in their material interest to again help people or shelter shelter homeless people. So we have to find a way that and create an economic system that isn't so weak to these crises, and instigating what's going on with these situations. So like with 2008, right, when a lot of people lost their homes, I mean, how can the question is how can it be prevented? And then how much is it again a product of our economy? And then obviously what's going on now with what happened with COVID and the fires and all these things. Again, they try to make it seem like it is outside of our hands, but a lot of it could have been prevented had we had some sort of collective ownership or a different system. So we need to understand that again, we cannot accept the bullying, the bullying that they're putting onto us. We cannot accept the manipulation and the propaganda, and understand a lot of these things are man-made. But I do want to tell Ms. Hartman really quick. I would love to be in touch with your daughter, and appreciate. And I would appreciate talking to her and her adding on to the research project. And again, thank you all for commenting, and I really appreciate everyone's intellect. This is very insightful and introspective.
Anna, and then what I'd like to do is to think a little more strategically about where this is all leading. I guess it'll be Tana and then Stacy, and then moving forward. Go ahead,
Okay.
Tana.
I was just wanted to add that I'm also seeing here in North Carolina a lot of older women who are looking for other options, that they're being priced in their neighborhoods out of their homes, or numbers of things, or they're suddenly alone and they don't want to live alone. And so there are lots of opportunities. We've been talking about other opportunities for women to live communally, because we found we all like women better than men in most cases. Rather work with a woman. Anyway, that, and I wanted to say, Samar, I really appreciate what you were saying, and I don't want to speak for the entire group, but these women have all been dealing with that and looking at that very, causality and the problems of capitalism and patriarchy, and for a long time. So everybody is sympathetic to that. And what we are now really needing, and I'm hearing this, I think from your project, if you're looking at women, because I'm hearing women talk about a new Amazonian state, or anyway, it'd be interesting to talk more about these communities of women, because I'm very interested in that too.
I want to welcome Tez Etzel to the call. Tez, if you could introduce yourself, Tez Etzel, and tell us where you are and your connection to WILF, that would be great. You're on mute. Yes, Edsel, could you come off mute and tell us where you are and your connection to Wilf, please? Okay, well, I'm a little uncomfortable having someone on this call that we can't identify. So Tess, please identify yourself, or I'm going to have to
Does anyone else on the call know Tess?
okay. Great. I'm I don't usually have to do this, but
What are you going to do, Mary Beth? What are you going to?
I'd like to remove her.
Hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you. Yay.
I'm sorry, I didn't have I had the mute on. I'm not very techie.
No
Okay.
worries.
Yeah, I'm with the Des Moines Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. I think Lori Jones is on this call, maybe Jan Corderman, I don't know. But anyway, I'm sorry I'm late to the call. I was trying to get on earlier, but anyway, please continue because I haven't been able to. I'll try and listen to it, the recording of it.
Okay, great. And thank you for identifying yourself. We're happy you're here. We're just we're talking about sensitive issues, and we don't want people listening in who are not connected with Wilf. So thanks for assuring us that you're part of our group. And I see Tana's hand up again. Is that, or is it still up? Okay, you put it down. All right. And Stacy, and then we're going to do some strategy work. Go ahead, Stacy. You're on mute.
Okay, I'm just sharing, passing along just a really temporary intervention. It would only apply to people who, this is for tax filings, and I'm talking about withholding taxes. That's legal. I'm just mentioning it. It's somebody passed this along to me a couple days ago. It's basically when you pay taxes, you can get an automatic postponement when you ask for it for 6 months. And for those who do file maybe only yearly, I know everybody files differently, because it's legal to give a postponement. If you just, again, this could hurt people too, but again, if you were objecting to our current government, that's all. I'm just mentioning it.
Okay, so it's like an action we could take if we want to.
A money action.
Make
Yeah.
a point, right? Okay.
Right.
All right, I wanted to share my screen here. Because what I was thinking about over the break was kind of process, where we go from here. And it seems to me that, I'm sorry, I can't see you now because my screen is being shared. Can you tell me who said something here? Was there somebody? Okay, moving along. Please interrupt me if you need to. On the work we've been doing today, it seems to me as we're looking through the possibilities of work in the future, what we might look at are breaking them into these kinds of processes or tasks. And when I look at them, I think we also were identifying the importance of moving from local issues to national or global issues. So when I think about that, the local things that I heard folks talk about were childcare, libraries, participatory budgeting, women's residences, I'll call them, or communities, and homelessness. When I think about the things that needed analysis and education, we heard about the Treasury, IRS, Federal Reserve connection. We heard about the link between money and militarism. We heard about the social wealth funds. We heard about crypto reserve warnings. We heard about degrowth options. And was there something else? That's all I wrote down for that. In terms of actions, that is yet to be developed from these issues. So if I separate these into these kinds of categories, what kinds of work do we want to consider, and who might be willing to lead that piece of it? I think that we also wanted to work on a theme, an overarching theme. So we can get to that too, but what are your thoughts about these things? How much can we do? What should we prioritize? I'll say that I really like the idea of participatory budgeting, and I guess it would be worth lifting up where it's working. I think Tara noted that her community does some of that, but my research on participatory budgeting is that it hasn't had a very a lot of success. Yes, Nancy. Did you have your hand up? No. You're on mute.
Well, I think in the US, and I haven't really looked at this for a couple of years, but I think in the US, when I was sort of looking around, it wasn't really going anywhere, you know. But I think if one created, you know, a fact sheet, a little bit of a toolkit, and maybe had some branches work on it in their local community, that, you know, I think it's just a matter of explaining what it is and how it works, and give some of the examples, like Mondragon in Spain. I do know that a couple of years ago, one of the, I guess you could call them, anyway, they have a special name in Chicago. One of the people there, a city council member, let's say, had a couple of $1 million that was allocated for his district to use in participatory budgeting. So I think it's a matter of doing some research and putting something together, because it really goes along with public banking so well.
Okay. Mary, your hand is up.
Yes, thanks. I agree that it could go along nicely with public banking. And I agree that from the Women Money Democracy Committee point of view of, you know, what shall we do? I agree with researching it and getting ourselves well informed about its limitations. If you can get money budgeted like somebody in Chicago for their district, then a participatory way of allocating that money is a great idea. But as soon as you get up into the bigger world, we find that I think the reason it hasn't gained traction is because in the bigger world, it's just dickering about moving XYZ resources from here to there and competing for this project's more important than the other one, and kind of wasting a lot of energy when the money is not going to be there for your participatory group until the deeper system gets changed. So it's not the banks in charge of creating all the money for their own purposes. So yeah, I would like to investigate it. I would like to support it in the world of progressing public banking initiatives. Yeah, and then I won't say more.
Okay. Lucille, go ahead.
Just one quick sort of action thought on that is it may be that there are League of Women Voters, local leagues that are working on participatory budgeting. And at the very least, we could try to check out our local leagues. Probably all of us are somewhere within one, and see if they are, and then supporting their work, or, you know, if we want to do more than that, partnering with them in it. Just a suggestion for getting practical about it.
Okay.
I remember there's an article from a couple of years ago where in Brazil, women were very involved in the participatory budgeting process. And so some of their needs, which they put forward, which you could say in our discussion today, like childcare or cooperative housing for women or whatever, you know, came to the fore. And so they were beginning to be involved in that kind of financial discussion, whereas before they were really left out of it.
Good thinking, a way of involving women.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, even if it, I suppose that even if we were resigned to the fact that our ability to change things and adopt actual participatory budgeting was doomed because of, you know, who's running the country at the moment. It could be a valuable exercise within a community to assemble women from various perspectives and ask them to participate in the envisioning of what participatory budgeting in their community might look like. It's a way of practicing democratic action and lifting up an alternate reality of how things could work. So I don't know if that's enough of a reason to do it, but I'll just put it on the table that it would offer us a chance to model the kind of democratic planning and conversations that, you know, used to happen in things like town meetings and things like that. Oh, my dog is upset about that idea. The other thing we heard a lot about was women's residences in communities. I'm sorry, Ricky has her hand up. Go ahead. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of background noise, so maybe people could check their mics to see whether they're muted, and so that background noise doesn't come on. What troubles me about participatory budgeting is that that is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 syllable word. and participatory budgeting is talking about collective budgeting. And I think most people right now are terrified for their own personal budgeting and wondering, what's going to happen there. So to me, this whole list kind of leaves out that context of the world we are in now, that context in the background, that participatory budgeting, you can't even say democratic budgeting, because Democrats have been demonized in our time. So we can't use that word. We can't use the word liberal. We can't use DEI. We can't say feminist out loud. And even, yeah. So anyway, this list just seems not to recognize the reality that we're in, except for maybe that homelessness and women's residents with the research that's going on right now. That to me seems the most pressing. And another one that I don't see on here that I think is equally pressing and just didn't come up today is healthcare, with Medicaid on the line, Medicare possibly on the line, drug costs on the line. These are things that we know the country really cares about, whatever color your state, red or blue, but it's not on the list. So I just, yeah, thank you for adding that.
Well, and I know that Ricky's AEOO had a fantastic conversation about healthcare's, the attacks on healthcare, both privatization and the whole interference of insurance companies. And the woman who was the speaker, I can't remember her name, Ricky, was offering some actions that ordinary people could do to work together to address these things and advocate for a fairer healthcare system. So it looks like that's an action that's already being organized by another organization that we could get behind. We wouldn't have to invent the wheel here. We would be able to support the work of that organization if that's something that people are interested in. I'm interested in healthcare. I think it's horrifying what our system has become and how unresponsive and unempathetic and uncompassionate it is, and inequitable as well. So, Ricky, your hand is up again.
Yes, I just wanted to say that one thing that was said in the participatory budgeting conversation, this notion of on the local level, partnering with other organizations like the League of Women Voters or other organizations that are interested in, I think the more alliance building that we can promote at the local level and then moving on to the national level would be an important role that a lot of people don't seem to be doing. I mean, because of the digital world, we all have our own websites and our own organization that's coming out with clever language, but finding that common language and finding that common ground seems to me to be an important effort to try to organize now in this context.
Okay. The idea of women's residences or communities, when I was a kid, I took piano lessons from this very old woman. She was probably then a little bit older than I am now. She seemed ancient. She had a house that she had lived in since she was a kid. It was her parents' house. She lived there alone. And she had she was renting out the top floor of her house to a younger, not very young, but middle-aged professional woman who I would see come and go. So I was doing piano lessons, and she explained to me that, this was a way of both of them finding a win-win situation where she got rent for part of her house, which allowed her to meet her expenses every month, and her tenant had a reasonably inexpensive place to live. Now, there are complexities with that, and we've all heard about people being taken advantage of or getting robbed or whatever. It's not without risk, but I do think that it's a way that we might at least raise these potential options for people in our community. I know that when I lived in Des Moines, I had an empty basement, and one of our members rent her lease was ending. She was moving in 6 months, but her landlord wouldn't give her a month-to-month lease. And they ended up living in my basement for 6 months, and it worked out beautifully. My husband was working in a different city. My daughter was away at college. It was company for me. The guy shoveled the snow all winter for me, and they both enjoyed walking my dog. I mean, it was perfect. So I think these are relationships that we could lift up, and if we gave it a catchy name, we might actually be able to frame this as a way of enacting the kinds of support communities that women need. We could develop sort of a fact sheet or even a little network of people who are doing this and reporting how it works. Is this something that you think might be of interest to the committee? Not hearing much from Jim. What do you think, Jim? What's going on in that head of yours?
I'm very impressed with everything I've heard this afternoon, and I don't think I have anything more to contribute to it, but my wife may. She's been sitting here patiently, pointing at the screen occasionally and jumping up and down every once in a while. Maybe it's time for her to be invited to make a remark or so.
What I'd like to say is we should remember how little we knew about the how the whole financial structure worked, how the whole political structure worked, how the campaign finance worked, all this kind of stuff. And we accepted the economy as something that was absolute. That was just the way it is. That's the way you don't question it. You just figure out how you work with it. So I think that with WILF, one of the things I think the important thing about WILF has been is they look into things and try to understand it and then try to educate people about it. Now, we've been talking about how a feminine approach or to the economy, about how it would be more of a commons economy, more working together on the real problems and this stuff like that. Now, for people to even begin to think that there's a different way to do something, they have to first understand how it works right now, and that it is man-made. It's not given by heaven or whatever, or some miraculous business. It's man-made. It's man-changed. It gets over and over again. Because what I find is, having been trying to talk to people about cooperatives or our say community, say the government, local government owning property and building public housing or building cooperative housing or anything like that, it doesn't even, the idea doesn't even land because they don't think about any possibility other than the economy that we have. So what I'm trying to say is that not just the U.S. but the whole world needs a new philosophy. Our philosophy of economy, philosophy of just how we look at the whole world, and does it meet the situation that we're in? So I would come back. It's not just a theme that we're talking about, but it is for us to understand what it is we want and understand what is keeping us from that, and begin to make other people start looking at, does it always have to be this way? Do we have so few choices? Well, no, we don't. The choices are what we make. So I would like to say over and again, it would be good to talk with each other and come up with, what do we think an economy should be? What should it do? You know, we just accept that what has been given to us is our economy, or you can't talk about capitalism, you can't talk about socialism, you can't talk any ism. You better stick away from. But again, we're free thinkers. Why can't we think about what should we want in our economy to meet our needs as a society? And I think that from that, then you can start building on hope of what we wish, then work toward what we wish.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, Tommy. There's been a lot of research done that when you take away the partisanship and you look at what Americans actually want, what they value, there's so much agreement across the board. Like 90% of Americans want affordable, safe housing, good education for their kids, good jobs for themselves and their families, safe neighborhoods, a representative democracy. That's what people want. We know that. But it would be maybe instructive to step back and maybe hold a webinar where we ask people to describe what an alternative economy could look like. I mean, we've been studying it for some time. We don't have all the answers. Some of us are farther along than others. We have been thinking about this, but most people haven't. So, what would be the best format in which to ask this question? Should it be a local webinar that, focuses on a specific community, or should it be a national webinar that maybe WILF does that invites the public to show up and talk about it? What do you think?
I think it's up to all of us to figure out if we think that's worthwhile, is what's the best way of doing it. I don't have an answer for it. I just say that I've been puzzling over this for some time. What we've got is not working, and not everybody understands it. So it's, first of all, the people who pretty much do understand it, you come up with, well, what are some pathways out of this mess that we're in terms of what we should think, what would we want, what is our philosophy, what is our religion, what is it, whatever motivates us, what is it we want to do. And it all comes back to the money, and how, because the money is how we you can say non-money, but you have some kind of exchange, even if it's non-money, that operates as money. It's an exchange, this exchange between people.
You know, there's a lot of crossover here with the webinar that we did with Alliance for Just Money called The Future in Our Pockets, which we already have. It's a resource that we put together already. It was very well done. It was pretty inspiring. And to the extent that we could, we made it as simple as we could for people to understand. Maybe packaging that webinar and pushing it out more.
Now, an idea that was said is that 2025, in effect, is if we're being pushed on us, the MAGA Republicans' idea of economy. That's exactly what it is. It's a money, profit, corruption, whatever it is in their hands, and it's just by pushing it on us. So it could be it could be explaining the difference of what could be our economy, rather than what they are pushing on us. Using the information we already have.
Right. I want us to think about, maybe not with an answer today, but I want us to think about the best means for getting this message out. This, creating sort of a J.K. Rowling alternate universe of what the economy could be, how it could work for everyone instead of just for the wealthy.
Right.
So what's the best way of getting that that message out, that hopeful alternative reality potential?
But they're already making the publicity be all their horrible actions, so you can write off their publicity as to what the counter could be, what could be a hopeful rather than a destructive way.
Hey, Lori, I'm watching the webinar.
My gallery would have a call for art on what the world should be, and then we'd have a political artist meetup.
That's great, Krista. That's great. I love that. And yes,
was that Krista or Tess?
Krista. And Mary Beth, yes, all of us to think about what are good ways.
Use art as a way to engage people.
To push this idea out, to think about better future. Yeah, thank you.
Well, and there's also a project that one of our members in Chicago has put together, which is an art project, but it's also about the money. And she's going to be presenting that in the next month or two at one of the Jane Addams meetings. She has designed this project where people come together and they calculate the caring work that they do, caring for their families, caring for their communities, caring for their the kind of work that we do, caring for the future, and calculate what those hours look like and how much they might be making if they were being paid for it. I can't remember the name of her project, but it's like an afternoon event where people come together, they think about their caring work, which is not compensated. They think about the value that they would attach to it. And then this woman who is an artist designs checks, large checks that they can take home, which are an artful representation of what a caring economy might provide to people who are not compensated for this care now. And that is one way of lifting up for people what an economy should be, what it might look like, what the benefits of switching would be. That's something that we could try to propagate in our branches and have each of them hold this kind of event that raises this kind of different value system and begs the question of what an economy should be. What's the purpose? What the benefits should accrue to ordinary people, not just, the rich people. So, but,
Mary Beth,
yeah.
Karen Little is going to speak on the 19th of this month, Wednesday, the third Wednesday of the month. And the project is called 50/50 Fair Pay Project.
Okay. Yeah, we should all try to go to that meeting. Diane, can you put the registration link and the date and time in the chat? It's a really creative, artistic way of engaging people in kind of a fun exercise. Not terribly serious, but it would certainly get them thinking about how an economy could function differently.
There's going to be 2 e-alerts coming out about it with the registration links, but I'll put the date and time in the link.
Thank you.
There are two hands up.
Tana, there's 3 hands up. Tana, then Kathy, then Diane.
All right, here. Actually, I like the idea, a lot of the ideas here, but I am seeing in my community that a lot of this work has started being taken up in the churches, the more progressive churches in particular, where groups are sitting down and having meetings. We had one at my church, a congregational meeting where people looked at values. What are our values? What are we, and how are we living in accord with them? And then they look and, and all of our churches around here have programs where they're trying to help different groups, and not in the way of sort of, blind charity, but of really trying to solve the problems and getting involved locally to do it. And I think that sends a great message.
Well, Wilf has always been involved with Unitarian churches and Quaker churches.
Yeah.
And some progressive Methodists as well. It's a little more difficult to connect with other churches, but I think an important message is whatever your original religion is, don't be afraid to seek out progressive churches, even if they're not your church, and align with them, collaborate with them on these sorts of projects. They need to hear your voices about this. They need to have these kinds of perspectives raised. And if they're already working on it, let's have some input into their work. So, okay, that was Tana. Kathy, you're next.
I just take a look at the Code Pink Peace Economy notebook, where, yes, that is taking money away from the military and, putting it in more useful. I just think it's such good ideas in that workbook. And I was just thinking, exchanging, time shares, exchange for skills. We also have a couple of Buy Nothing groups on Facebook, and a Quaker church near me also has a Saturday a month where people come in and bring their things that need repair or sewn or rehabbed, and they get the work done without any money. they donate maybe to the church. And that's the way Buy Nothing is. And I'm thinking maybe down the road, that might be a way of helping people who not just need an item, but much more, not just food, but crazy, maybe housing, or a place to live for a while.
Okay, and did Nancy have her hand up or somebody else had their hand up? No. Okay. All right. Well, we've done a heck of a lot of thinking today. What I would really like to do is I would like to form a small group within our committee that looks at all this information, thinks about it some more, and at our next meeting, which will be in March, comes back with some suggestions for projects and in the areas of analysis, education, and action that we can actually kick off within the next year with some goals, some objectives, a timeline, and some measurable outcomes we'd like to see. That group, I'm going to warn you, will also help me plan the meetings for the year. Last year, Jean Hopkins and Mary Sanderson were those people. They helped me facilitate the meetings, and it went really well. They helped me plan the meetings anyway, and also stood in case there were dates I couldn't make, which occasionally happens. The year before that, it was Jean Hopkins and Diane Blay. The year before that, it was Mary Sanderson and Laurel Farnham. Can I get 2 people on this call who will say that you will work with me to develop a calendar of subjects for our meetings for the next year and will help me take the notes from today and present them to the full committee in March with some options for analysis, education, and action projects?
Yes.
Yes, who is that? Mary, yay. Someone else? Hey, Mary.
Yes.
Who else can I ask? You're all busy, but
I
Um,
I can help with the writing part. What were you saying? What was the second one?
Going over these notes.
Going over the notes. Yes, I can do that.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, Mary.
Tommy, Stacy? No?
I might approach Tara.
Oh, okay.
That would be
We had to
good.
get off the call, but she might be willing to help.
Yeah, that would be good. She would.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
good.
Okay. All right. Well, I know we didn't go figure. We did not solve all the problems today.
Take off the screen share. Thank you.
Who thought we would? But we're working on it. That's all we can ask for. Our committee meets on the 3rd Tuesday of every month. I cannot tell you how important it is for you to show up at those meetings, because whatever projects we come up with in the next month and present in March, we'll need some of you to help work on them, even if it's just to figure out how to push them out. So you're all going to be connected to our committee, and we really request your engagement, because that's the only way we get things done in Welsh. It can't be the Mary Beth show. And I do encourage you to think again about my request for someone to be my co-leader or even to take over the chairmanship. I'm okay with either. But please think about it. The work that we're doing is potentially really important. It's not going to be important if we don't get it done, but it's potentially really important. So please continue to engage, come to our meetings, bring us your best thinking, bring us your energy and your ideas for how to make action happen. And thank you all for being here for so long today. Sometimes planning just takes a heck of a long time.
See you on the 18th.
March 18th?
February, are we going to have one for February?
I'm
This
not
was
sure we
fun.
can get our
Fun for me.
March, it'll be the third Tuesday in March. I don't think we can translate these ideas into
Okay.
a plan by February. And this
Okay.
has been kind of our February meeting.
Okay.
So let's meet in March, and Mary and Tana and hopefully Tara and I will come up with some ideas for projects that we can center as our work during 25 and 26.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Beth.
Thanks so much. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mary Beth,
Yes?
when I said that about the churches, I know that Wilf does a lot with churches here and there's some great, they've been instrumental in this, reconciliation, truth and reconciliation stuff that's going on. And we've got coming up a big, thing about the legacy of lynchings. That's a symposium coming here at the university that Lucy Lewis has been involved with. And anyway, a lot is going on, and I find it really exciting because I think people are thinking for the first time. I think they're taking it seriously finally. I mean, God help me. Maybe
Well,
Trump.
it's beginning to hit them in their own pockets.
Yes, it is.
That's what it's taken all. It's unfortunate that people are so self-interested that that's what it takes, but at least maybe they'll start to act before all the money is gone.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I was reading something yesterday about that middle class, $1 million is now middle class. And it's barely middle class. You have to qualify as the affluent, the upper class, you have to earn, oh God, I don't remember what it is, but it's a hell of a lot. And I'm going, holy shit, what happened? We thought we were doing good. But, and that's what people are. Have always reacted to the threats to their home and their well-being and their families. And I think for me here locally, that's what I'm seeing starting and is really exciting, is that we're getting together locally to create these little committees and, communities, and they're spreading because now we're looking bigger, and we're looking out and seeing, oh, over here, this group's doing that too. And how do we connect? And I find it very optimistic. And this was an exciting meeting. Thank you so much. I'm really glad you were there.
I'm really happy with how it went. We didn't come out with any definite plans, big surprise, but yes, I'm happy with the engagement, the ideas, the contributions.
Yeah. Lots
Thank
of
you
great.
all.
Oh gosh, can we be able? What about the chat? Can we get the
I'm
thing?
just about to, how can I do this? Save the chat.
I would like to read some of those resources. I didn't get them all saved.
Okay, and I used to be there. Here, I can do it. I can copy the chat. It's kind of a pain, but yeah. Thank you for reminding me. That would have been bad.
As Lib Huxley always says, teamwork.
Okay, I'm still copying. It was a long chat.
Yeah, it was. But it was really good. And inspiring. The young women, Tara and Tamar.
Yeah, they were
Bummer.
exciting.
They were. That's really, I'm really glad. Okay.
See, here I'm doing this. Okay, I'm just taking time to capture the chat. That's all that's going on here.
All right. Well, what can I do then to help you with this? What would you like me to do? Start.
I would like you to, I would like you to help us think through, Tana, how we can translate some of this thinking into projects
Oh, yeah.
that our members can get involved with
Yes.
on a local level. And I hope that that can happen because
Yeah.
it's important. This stuff is like the rubber is hitting the road. People are in pain and needing ways to make a difference.
Yes, absolutely. Needing to feel a little hope and little agency, I think.
And build
Yeah.
build trust with some people.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Absolutely essential.
All right. Let's see. Browse. Where am I saving this? I'm saving it all the way down there. There. Planning retreat. Chat.
You did a beautiful job, Mary Beth. Thank you.
You really did, yes.
Oh, thank you. I was so, I can tell you that as of yesterday, I had not spent more than 10 minutes thinking about how to make this work. Maybe that's the key, not to overplan.
Not to overthink it, right?
Well, and your promotion worked. My goodness, I was so thrilled with the turnout
Yeah, I was too.
and the level of engagement. Oh my goodness, wonderful.
Thank you all, guys.
Okay.
Have a good rest of the weekend.
Back at you.
Thank you.
Put your feet up. And Mary,
Bye,
let me know if you think there's any possibility you could come to Chicago that weekend in March.
Well, I will, and I told you it ain't much, but I would like to. Hey, so when will we get to see? We want to study the chat for our little homework, Tana and I. However, be helpful to have access to the video again too, or at least the audio.
Okay,
How soon can
I have to figure out how to copy it and send it to you all.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
We'll be looking for it.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.